Very good evening, friends. Very good evening. This side Rahul Magan here as Group Chief Executive Officer, Treasury Consulting, also a venture capitalist. We already shot a video about continuous monitoring activity. This time we are shooting a very short video about continuous monitoring activity. But before that, you understand that, next to our every YouTube video, there is a dialog box, and in this dialog box, there is a description followed by a paragraph, followed by a link. If you click on this link, then you would be able to reach to the free groups by Treasury Consulting. In case you have any requirements about video trainings, audio trainings, and any other thing, you are definitely welcome to WhatsApp at 9818485155. 9818485155. I have already explained a lot about CMA, but this time I am going to be making a short. CMA basic purpose is to do two important things. Number one, to create forecasted financial statements for that organization. Now here CMA role is two. Number one, the standalone. Standalone means example L&T. The last time we have taken example of L&T. L&T is a big giant. I don't know, even they have more than so many companies. So it's standalone CMA, and one is definitely consolidated CMA. Now CMA falls under the department whose name is known as FP&A, which is known as Financial Planning and Analysis. Nowadays it is relatively very fancy, and all organizations are having FP&A department, but in a whole FP&A department there are one or two people, those who are handling this job. CMA second important role is definitely the limits, the bank limits, because we know that nowadays every company is having a credit limit which is assigned to it, and of course that is by the bank. Now how exactly this happens is, let me show to you. Now if we talk about big corporates, then these big corporates are having two kind of limits from banks, and the number one is non-cash limits, and number two is definitely the cash limit, which is also known as cash credit. Like you are having a main bank account and there is a cash credit limit of 2 crore, 2 CR, which is attached to that bank account. So in case there is a shortfall, because of shortfall to pay a check or anything, this cash credit limit can be used. And guys, don't forget, the interest is always very high to use that. Here basically it is used to issue the trade finance instrument. So example, it is used to issue bank guarantee, SPLC, DPLC, subordinate bonds, standby bank guarantee, and many different instruments. But how exactly bank computes this? I understand that the foreign banks are having their own methodology of computing, and we cannot disregard this methodology. I don't think that they are always wrong. Of course, at many places foreign banks are wrong, but not at all the places they are wrong. So foreign banks are always looking CMA from three different angles. Number one, they very importantly see the top line. What they see in the top line, they see basically the revenue growth of that organization. They see that, oh my God, the revenue is growing by 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%. Of course, I have already told you that interpretation issues are there. So the more growth you would be showing, the more interpretation issue between you and the bank. So example, generally in top line, banks are divided into this 0 to 5% growth, 5 to 10% growth, 10 to 20% growth, 20 to 30% growth, and greater than 30%. Now that I'm telling you per year. The deepest you go here, the more interpretation issues, IS, between you and the bank. Bank would be asking, hey guys, you are saying you are having 30% growth in the next 3 years. Can you explain? It means that after 3 years, you would be 2 times of what you are today. So you need to explain me this. Second is definitely, and more importantly, which is known as the middle line. In the middle line, the banks are having issues here, EBIT, also known as operating profit, EBITDA. This is the most fancy for our unicorns. EBITDA, non-cash items. And here banks are always concerned because they are having huge issues with non-cash items. And more importantly, the very important thing, EBITDA multiples. Now banks see this. You compute EBITDA, non-cash, EBITDA multiples. Banks have their own opinion and we cannot disregard outrightly or completely. The third important thing banks see in any continuous monitoring activity is my favorite, profit after tax. And here they love to see these 3 things, which is basic EPS, basic earning per share, I would say diluted EPS, diluted earning per share, and third is definitely adjusted EPS. And fourth, which the foreign banks always see, is the free cash models. And here they love to see free cash flow to firm, they love to see free cash flow to debt, and they love to see free cash flow to equity. And here you have the biggest decider of the bank limits by the bank. They are the biggest decider of the bank limits. Now I'll give you a few examples how bank determine the bank limits based upon CMA, which is continuous monitoring activity. Now few banks decide that way. They feel that they have few ratios. Example, they compute the ratio. One of the most famous ratio in foreign banks is top line divided by free cash flow to firm. Few banks are saying it should be closer to 0.8. Few banks are saying it should be closer to 0.9, and few are saying it has to be greater than 1. Some banks are little different. They computing top line to free cash flow to equity. They believe that whatever is in the hands of equity shareholders, that matters more than in the hands of corporate. So because this free cash flow to the firm means corporate, whatever is in the hand of corporate. Now this means whatever is in the hands of equity shareholders. So they feel the same thing. It should be 0.8, it should be 0.9, or probably it has to be greater than 1. Another few banks are having little difference of opinion, and they feel that, and that's a very sticky ratio. I call this as sticky ratio. Now what is sticky ratios? I don't know you know this or not. Sticky ratios are those ratios where the adamant attitude, it means that you are stick to it. You go by the book. If the book is giving this, you go. If the book is not giving this, you just go. So one of the sticky ratios the bank always loves to compute, that free cash flow to equity divided by free cash flow to firm, it should be in the range of 0.8 to 1. Now based upon that, they give the limits like it depends. Example, if your top line is 1 billion, they give you that limit. Based upon that, they give you that limit and utilization. But before I discontinue, or before I resolve this video, you need to understand that the most important thing is not the limit, rather is the utilization. So guys, if you are making CMA, which is continuous monitoring activity, remember that limits is okay. You got the limit, that I'm happy you got the limit, but before that you need to understand the utilization also. Most of the people do not understand utilization. It is like you know how to get the limits, but you don't know how to utilize the limits. Unfortunately, people don't pay attention to that part and they lose. So guys, careful. Once you have limits, pay attention to utilization as well. Please have that understanding as well. This is Rahul from Treasury Consulting. You know our WhatsApp 9818485155. 9818485155. Have a great time and talk soon.